wasn't you.
Welcome back. Love Boat Project, episode 6. Welcome aboard. For those of you who are returning guests, as you know, we don't need to see your ID. We don't need to see anything. We don't give you a key. We just give you a room number. Here with me, as always, is my co-host, Mike Robertson. And joining us on the cruise this week, our very good friend, Mr. Jimmy Proulx.
Hello,
sir. Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard. I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Have you ever been on a cruise or ever wanted to go on a cruise?
I used to think that it would be fun to go on a cruise, but now it seems like all you hear are horror stories. So I'd probably enjoy it as long as, you didn't get sick or anything like that, which seems to happen every time someone goes on a cruise now. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we already dealt this season. Like, Mike, we had cooked sausage or uncooked sausage. I mean, there's a lot of
I don't know that anything we've seen in the first 6 episodes has changed my mind about wanting to be on a cruise. I mean, we had a woman almost murdered. There's been multiple incidents of skeet shoot rifles being aimed at people. It just doesn't seem like my cup of tea.
It's not a safe working environment, as some people say.
Yeah.
All right. So look, let's get into it. We are here to talk about Love Boat Season 1, Episode 6. Title of the episode is Joker is Mild, First Time Out, and Take My Granddaughter, Please. Original air date, October 29th, 1977.
Spooky.
What else? What else was on? Okay. Well, on CBS at 10 o'clock was the Carol Burnett Show. And we've said this week in, week out. It seems like that's a staple on that CBS Saturday night schedule. On NBC, there was a movie.
Oh,
and I always like to read these.
There have been some good movies so far. I'm excited about this week's.
This one's even better. This is a movie called Monte Walsh. Anybody ever heard of this movie? Monte Walsh.
Nope.
From 1970 with Lee Marvin and Jack Palance.
Oh my God.
Heavy hitters.
Wow. Okay.
An aging cowboy realizes that the West he knew and loved will soon be no more, and that there will be no room for him either.
That's every Lee Marvin movie that's about a cowboy, I think.
I think this is the plot to Once Upon a Time in America. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, too.
It doesn't seem like that's a lot to fill in a 2-hour. Oh,
you really just need cowboys. You need Lee Marvin.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, there's like a cattle rustling, like 5-minute scene
like
in there.
Something
Jack
posse
Palance as a cowboy is always
right.
Stagecoach scenery. Yeah,
something horse, something poker, something whiskey. Yeah, something. That day in history, our Philadelphia Flyers were victorious with a score of 7-3 over the St. Louis Blues.
Man,
today,
late 70s hockey was high scoring. Every week it's a 2-line
passes. And we are currently, Philadelphia Flyer fans, we are currently in second in the Patrick division.
All right.
The old Patrick.
We'll see what happens.
Sounds like 78 is our year to win the cup.
We're going to win so many more championships.
Yep.
All right. So here's another thing I was thinking about. Like, it's nice to look at. We like to look at this as like a slice of time. Now, last week, what we talked about is like what was the number one song.
Okay.
There's a lot of talk about college football and teams and conference shifting. So I thought, well, who was in the top 10 in the NCAA football rankings this week in the week of October 29th? 29th, yeah. 29th, 1977. So how many do you think collectively between Mike, you and Jimmy can you get correct? Don't say the names yet.
Okay.
I want you to figure how many you think you guys collectively can get. Can you nail all of them?
I feel like if this was basketball, there's always the chance of a couple outlier programs that like had people that maybe, a 1-star team that came out of nowhere. Like Marquette won the championship around this time in basketball.
Right.
I don't think that exists in late 70s college football. So I'm going to say we can get 9 of the 10.
What do you think, Jimmy? You can get 9 out of 10?
I don't think I could get 9 out of 10, but I think I would I have some guesses that are teams that are probably not that good anymore, but at that point in time were probably
That's
top
a good
10.
thought. I mean, because this could be the SMU. So let's do this. Let's put together the top 10 list. Let's see what you got. How many you guys can get?
You want to alternate?
Yeah, let's alternate.
Sure.
All right. I'm
So,
ready
Mike,
whenever
you
you
go first.
gentlemen.
Okay. I will go with Penn State.
Yes.
Okay. I think this would have been around the time that Notre Dame would have been a big-time program. So I'm going Notre Dame.
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like this is Woody Hayes territory, so Ohio State.
Again, that's a yes. Killing it so far. All right, next.
I don't know if Vermeil was at UCLA at this point, but I'm thinking UCLA was probably.
Sorry. So sorry. No. That is incorrect.
Thanks for having me on. I guess I'll just stop.
That's only one. That's only one wrong.
Well, it's got to be,
right.
but if it's not UCLA, then it's probably USC.
Yeah.
That is correct.
This would be one of my weird ones. That Navy?
Nice guess, but no, that is not correct. So that would be
Jimmy
post.
Carter was president. The Navy was weak. Yeah.
So far, out of a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guesses, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 correct. You get three more guesses collectively.
Fair. Since you're hosting Alabama.
Woo.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have even brought it up.
I was going to say, this is the only reason you even know this.
Well, let me tell you this so far, too. So, I'll give you the 10 after we're done. Okay, yeah. Bama. Woo. All right.
I will go with Michigan.
Solid pick. That's a yes. Okay.
All right. I am going to go. I feel like we have to go Pitt.
I'm sorry. No. And that was your final guess. Let me give you the top 10 college football teams as of October 29th, 1977. Number 10, Southern California. Number 9, Penn State. Number 8, Arkansas, which is sort of surprising to me.
Houston Nutt.
What's his name? Jerry Jones. When did he go? Well, Bobby he went there in 1877. So Arkansas, 8, 7 Kentucky, 6 Michigan, 5 Notre Dame, 4 Oklahoma, 3 Ohio State, 2 Bama, 1 Texas. But here's what's interesting about this.
Kentucky?
Kentucky's the weird one there.
Kentucky's weird.
All of these teams belong to two current conferences. The new Big Ten and the new SEC are the only conferences represented in this top 10.
Okay.
Which I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. So anyway, just a little bit of flavor. We like to kind of see what's going on. It does explain a lot. All right, so let's get into it. Let's talk about the guest stars on this episode. First one we're going to talk about is Phil Foster as Barry Keyes. He was best known for his role as Frank DeFazio on Laverne and Shirley. Any thoughts on Mr. Barry Keyes or Phil Foster?
Comedic genius. Let's just be honest here. I mean, he's delivering that. I think it's a Brooklyn accent that he's coming with. I don't know where this guy grew up, but he's giving you that East Coast crack up comic kind of vibe.
It was very like it was funny because it was awkwardly bad, right? But I think that was the point. It was clearly like some sort of like Cat Skills, Alan King, like Jackie Mason, like those kind of guys. But the guy, I thought the actor, because I only knew this guy from Laverne and Shirley.
Right.
And I certainly didn't know his name, before that. I thought he did a really good job in portraying, to the point where I actually looked up to see if he was a stand-up comedian, because the way he like carried himself on the actual act felt very like a real comedian. I'm not saying the bits were good or anything, but like the actual.
Yeah, I got some thoughts on his stand-up.
It's funny you say that about him, the way he carried himself, because Foster, he made his debut as a nightclub comic in Chicago in the late 1930s when he was pushed out on the floor suddenly to fill in for a stand-up comic.
Okay.
On the
That's
spot.
how you do it.
But here's the thing I
Until I
noticed
learned how to
about
swim.
just bear with me. I kind of have a theory here. My theory is one of two things. It works one way or the other way, right? Either Tony Clifton does the best Barry Keys impression I've ever seen, or vice versa. I have gone on a black hole of YouTube looking at old Tony Clifton clips and then listening to love this guy on the Love Boat talk Barry Keys. It's the same thing. Now, this character of Tony Clifton came out in the late 70s as well. So
Wow.
I don't know, but it is uncanny.
So do you think Andy Kaufman is actually Laverne DeFazio's father?
No. I'm
both
saying
portraying Tony Clifton.
I think that Barry Keys could have been the inspiration. The character of Barry Keys could have been the inspiration for Tony Clifton.
Wow. I mean, he got a job.
Well, no. Not that Barry Keys.
That guy, Barry Keys, went from buttering his hand to 2 days later getting signed to apparently the biggest comedy agent in the world.
He turned his comedy into like a Henry Rollins show.
It was
let me holler at you,
basically
Pete.
that Krusty episode in The Simpsons where he like turns against corporate America.
It was awful. Next, Ruth Gordon. I didn't recognize her at first. I love Ruth Gordon. I love Ruth Gordon because of Every Which Way But Loose and Every Which Way But Can. I remember seeing her as a kid.
Yes.
She cracked me up. Interesting thing about her. Let's see here. American actress, screenwriter, and playwright. Began her career performing on Broadway at age 19. She's been in everything. Yep. But the interesting thing is she almost became more famous later in her life based on like Harold and Maude.
Yep.
My Bodyguard, Rosemary's Baby. Like, so it was weird. Like mid 60s on, she had such a resurgence, which was kind of cool.
I do remember her from Every Which Way You Can, or Any Which Way You Can, Every Which Way But Loose. But I do very much remember her as the grandmother in My Bodyguard, because I really liked that movie for some reason when I was a kid.
I like that movie. Chris Makepeace, if I'm not mistaken.
I think I just like the idea of being able to live in a hotel. I thought that would be cool.
I get that.
My communications class freshman year, we did a film study on Harold and Maude. And so I think I watched that movie like 5 times in 3 weeks or something like that. And that's really what she's playing. And I think to your point, she kind of plays that character she was in I think you guys know, I did a Newhart binge of like last year, and she shows up in the Vermont hotel for one episode, just doing Ruth Gordon stuff, just walks into a standing ovation. Like she was amazing.
Was she the grandmother in Vacation?
No, that was Ethel Merman or Imogene Coco, one of the two.
I think it was Imogene Coco. Yeah. Because she was from that Your Show of Shows back in the day.
Yeah. Ethel Merman was in Airplane. So
yeah. So that is Ruth. The next guest star. This one was kind of weird to me. Number one, it's Tab Hunter. Anybody with the first name Tab, like the eyebrows, like, okay, Tab Hunter. That has to be a fake name. I don't think it is, though. So
it is Dave King.
Yeah. So
Tab Hunter, big friggin' deal.
Oh, he was a huge deal.
Yeah.
He was a huge deal. So he was an American actor, singer, film producer, author, known for his blonde, clean-cut, good looks. He starred in more than 40 films, appeared on the covers of hundreds of film magazines, and had a number 1 hit in 1957 called Young Love. Renaissance man, Tab Hunter. Whew.
Where I knew that name from was, and I meant to say this. So this was the episode where I really needed the Portal credits, because even the guys I turned out I knew, I didn't know the actors' names. And then there's a couple of people on here that you're going to get to that I have no idea who they are. But Tab Hunter was a name that was familiar. And I realized I knew it from watching Mystery Science Theater 3000 because they would have old Tab Hunter movies and they would do it all the time, or they would make Tab Hunter references. So I knew him as an old reference more than anything. This might have been the first thing I've ever seen him in that didn't have people talking over it. So,
what'd you think of Tab Hunter, Jimmy?
Well, we'll get to it when we get into talking about it, but there's one scene in particular that stands out. We'll just get to it later, but
all right.
You know, the thing that I had to look this up because I'm watching this thing and I know I'm going to do the podcast, so I'm looking up who are these people, and it turns out he was this heartthrob guy, but he was also apparently closeted. And at one point there was a thing that got out there where it was like, hey, this guy might be gay. And then he suddenly got married to, I guess, throw people off because that's what you had to do back then, I guess.
I mean, we've had 2 episodes in a row. One, you know, I'm sorry, I can't. The actor that played Mike Brady and Jim Neighbors, same thing where it was like
just a crazy different time. Yeah.
Well, wasn't there one? Wasn't like Christy McNichol on one of these earlier episodes?
She was like with Scott Bale.
Years where they kept trying to make her like the teenage love interest of somebody, and
different time.
Yeah, very different time.
Hey, can you pause this at all or no?
No, sir. Once you're on the cruise, you're on the cruise.
You're on. Okay.
Yeah.
I got a thing in my throat. Sorry.
It's all good. Next guest star is Patty Duke, not to be confused with Patty Hearst. Okay, if you're looking up info for Patty Duke, don't look up Patty Hearst.
Okay. Although they both had big years that time, so
I did have to look up Patty Duke because I knew the name, but I didn't know where I knew her from. And it turns out, like I think the most famous thing she did was the Helen Keller movie.
She was in the Helen Keller. She was 15 years old, and she won an Academy Award.
Most interesting thing about her, to me, was her son.
Oh, right. It's
Sean
Astin, right? Yeah. She's married to Gomez himself at this time.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
There's a whole weird thing about, she got pregnant. She immediately got married. That marriage was later annulled. She, for years, told Sean Astin that one person was his father, and then years later, he found out that somebody else was. So, Patty had some things going on.
Keep in mind that she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in the early 80s.
She became an advocate for it.
He might have, you know what I mean? She might have had some undiagnosed things that make life super.
Well, I think later on in life, she kind of became she was an advocate for mental health issues,
education, and the interesting too. So over the course of her acting career, she was the recipient of an Academy Award, 2 Golden Globes, 3 Primetime Emmys, and a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
She's a big hitter.
Yeah, that was a big combination. Those two, both Oscar winners, right? I mean, that's that's high cotton for a Love Boat episode.
I agree, and don't forget the Patty Duke show where she played identical cousins of Kathy and Patty Lane.
Oh, she played 2 roles.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a Nick at Night. I knew that from Nick at Night.
That was a staple of Nick at Night. That and Dobie Gillis, that was on every night.
Dobie Gillis.
And then I'm going to go on to the next person, Robert, and I don't quite. Is it Hayes? Robert Hegius?
Yeah,
I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Yeah, I've never heard it said out loud. Yeah.
So Robert Hegius is Danny, best known for his portrayal of high school student Juan Epstein in the 70s American sitcom Welcome Back, Kotter, and as Detective Manny Esposito on the 1980s American crime drama Cagney and Lacey on ABC from 75 to 79.
Wow.
So that was another big one.
Second Cagney and Lacey.
Yeah.
I watched probably a bunch of episodes of Cagney and Lacey. I couldn't remember a single thing about it and didn't remember that he was on it.
I was more of a Scarecrow and Mrs. King fan myself.
I think he's I think I probably always thought this as a kid watching Kotter, that he was the best actor. Maybe him or Freddie Washington. But like, I think he's actually really pretty good in this.
I agree. I think he's the best in this.
Yeah, it's just
I agree.
there's a lot going on with that role, and he's
that
really good at
storyline
it.
is weird, but he's really good at it.
Yeah, and he's carrying. I mean, there's a lot of words that he's saying in that, and he's pretty much acting by himself in a lot of that. So first Cotter though. So we'll keep our scoreboard here. That's our first Cotter.
Yeah. Fun fact: his famous cousin is.
I know this.
Any guesses? All right.
I know who this is. Mike, go ahead.
I don't know.
John Bon Jovi.
That is correct,
Really?
sir. Yes, this is John Bon Jovi's, and this gentleman is not Hispanic at all.
No, he's like Italian and
like
Cuban?
Eastern European, not even no Hispanic.
Okay, yeah. He's not
even better actor.
So yeah, and great for him. So let's move on to Maureen McCormick as Barbara.
Let us move on to Maureen.
Yeah, I've got some things to talk about here.
I can talk about Marsha for a while.
Let's just skip ahead. We know she was Marsha Brady. Blah 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 blah. Here we go. Let's just get to the meat of the matter here. Following the cancellation of the Brady Bunch, McCormick spent years addicted to cocaine and Quaaludes, which impeded her career. McCormick later stated that she sometimes traded sex for drugs during her early 20s.
Oh no!
She also flubbed an audition with Steven Spielberg for a part in what movie? Raiders of the Lost Ark. Arriving for the audition under the influence of cocaine and having not slept for 3 days.
I mean, does that have
thoughts and prayers?
So there's no way that it was for Marion, right? That's too big a role. So was it like for one of those students at the beginning of the movie? There weren't that many women in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I agree with you that I can't imagine that it would have been Marion.
It had to be. Who else could it have? I mean, maybe who knows? Maybe they didn't know what they wanted, but
right.
Or maybe he was throwing her a bone, like
Maureen McCormick. Sorry, she's fine. There's no way she's playing Marion in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Well,
she would just sound like Marsha Brady.
I don't know if you know this about Raiders of the Lost Ark, but like, there's a line in the movie where she says, like, I was a child and it was wrong. Like, apparently Lucas, the backstory that he wrote that I think Spielberg was like, we're not going to do this, was that the relationship that goes on between her and Indy happens when she is like 15.
A child bride. Yeah.
Yes. So maybe Maureen McCormick was the young blonde that was supposed to be irresistible to Indy.
The other thing that I know from a previous episode, because this is our second Brady Bunch person, is that I believe the Brady Bunch Variety Hour is in the ether at this time. So the Bradys are really out there, and as we'll get to later, they're really horny. These Bradys once you get them out of California. So,
wow.
Well, I have some thoughts on that as we go along.
So let's get into it. Let's begin the episode. 4 fraternity brothers board the Pacific Princess. Check in with Julie, and she, as always, she automatically knows who they are. There's no ID. There's no anything. Ask her if she thinks there'll be enough action on the ship. I'm just going to say, I can't stand these guys.
These guys suck. These guys
awful.
Suck so bad. And no luggage.
I didn't even think about that.
They brought no luggage. They have suits for days, but they have no luggage with them.
What do they have their luggage like sent ahead of time, and then they hung it up like when they were loading the Heineken on the ship? They have their suits.
First of all, they're 4 college freshmen, right? Clearly, this entire trip is to get Juan Epstein laid, and they decide to go on a cruise, which is weird because, as we've seen, these cruise demographics are all over the place. Like you could have been on the same cruise as the
over 60s,
right? And then what?
I mean, you have to suspend disbelief when you watch these shows, but I completely agree with the idea that a bunch of frat guys from a college in California are going to say, our buddy has never been with a girl. What do we do? Throw a rager, invite everyone we know? No, let's go on a cruise.
And we have not determined the price of this cruise, but we are thinking it's somewhat expensive. This is not like,
I don't know.
It's not
we
like
have to
the
get
Aaron
somebody who has some
Express.
knowledge about the cruises in order to answer those questions.
The thing,
Yeah.
I don't
Roxy
know what a cruise
Blue.
in '77 was, but I think it's more than what 4 college guys are going to be able to.
Yeah.
I mean, Roxy Blue is not going on some freshwater boat. You know what I mean? Like it's not happening. So this has to be of a caliber where, or at least the option is there to get like first class accommodations.
It's really probably like when I lived in Tampa for that year and we looked at apartments, a lot of them were near colleges, and they made a point to tell you that they were priced to keep the riffraff of college kids out of your building. And it's like, that's probably what their boat's doing. The Princess doesn't want a bunch of kegs floating in that little circle pool. Like,
but, you know, to Jimmy's point, I agree with you, because it's like, it's hard to swallow that the logic is, hey, let's leave California, you know, where it's sunny all the time, everyone's tan, and let's leave this college campus full of eligible women, and why to go on a boat for it just isn't it
for 10,
the logic
I think
is
we've pretty
just
much
misses
established
me.
10 days. That's a long time.
It is a long time.
Like,
it is a long time.
Yeah.
The thing that, you know, the idea, like, they're not just college students, like, they're in a fraternity. You know, like, this is
right. Like, there's no reason to leave.
The only thing that you could possibly come up with is they're like, okay, you need to get a girl. We don't want it to be a whole thing, so we're going to have this anonymous woman that you meet on this cruise just to get it out of the way. Meanwhile, we're all going to be having a blast. So you just go do some jumping jacks and meet some women, and
Yeah, maybe it's just like just the pure numbers game. They were just playing a numbers game.
It's a bizarre call.
Yeah.
It's a bizarre.
Yeah, I'd love to know what the second option was.
By the way, that's like the third line that one of the guys says after they get on there. Is like, well, great idea, take a cruise. But that's after Julie makes him think that the only action going on is shuffleboard.
And that guy who said that line is 37 years old. That is the oldest college freshman I've ever seen.
It's funny too, and like even later in the episode, I don't know what these guys did. I mean, obviously they went to dinner with the captain, because everybody goes to dinner with the captain eventually in a 10-day period. But other than that, you don't really see what these guys are doing.
Gamble.
So
apparently they are just taking everybody's money to see if their friend.
They are running a pool. Yeah,
that's it. That's all they do.
It's like rounders. That's what they're doing. They're hustling everyone on the ship.
These guys are awful. These guys might as well have been old people, because they sucked on
these guys were clearly drug dealers, and they went on this cruise as a cover to go meet their contact. And
in Acapulco,
that's not going with.
Well, and they're strangely obsessed with this guy's virginity.
Yes.
Like, what the hell, man?
I mean, if you meet somebody at college and he's your frat brother, and you're like, and he says like, "Hey guys, embarrassing, but I've never been with a woman." You're not going to be obsessed with that. You're going to be like, "That's weird, dude," but like, come on, man. Like, you're in college now. Go get it done. You're not going to make it your mission to go, or I don't know. Maybe you do. I don't know what frat guys.
I'm not going international on this venture. Like,
well, they haven't
There's
even
an ulterior motive for this 47-year-old college student to be on this.
Well, they never even got on the boat. Like, they didn't even get a chance on the boat, and they're already talking about virginity. Like, Julie knows. Oh, right on. I don't know who you are. I don't have ID, but I know this dude's a vert. Like, they're so
right. And plus, like, would you tell the TSA guard that? Like, that's weird. Like, it's just a weird thing to say.
Well, that whole storyline about, because at one point Danny says like the whole ship is talking about it, and at one point when Marsha is talking to him, her name in the episode is Barbara, by the way. She says something like, she's talking to, is it Isaac? Comes up to her.
Yeah.
And she says like, oh, his friend, he's under a lot of pressure with his friends. So clearly everybody knows that Danny is there to try to get a girl.
That's why Barry Keyes was able to get a set on this boat, is because the rest of the entertainment apparently sucked. If only this guy's love life is to talk on the boat.
Somebody asked for his autograph.
No,
I would.
Everybody's talking about it. One guy asked for my autograph. Like,
yeah.
Who does that?
I would drown. I would drown Barry Keyes. I promise you. I'd jump off with him, and I'd make sure he didn't come back up. I've had enough of this guy already. He hasn't even
haven't gotten
introduced
to him yet. We haven't even gotten to Barry Keys yet.
He's the
Well, he
worst
has a
character
great
to
line
ever
when
be
he
on the
does get
boat.
introduced.
He's elsewhere. Shirley Warner boards the ship while bickering with her grandmother about how this cruise is less about her, Shirley, finding a husband and more about it being a birthday present for the old lady. Julie, meanwhile, is giving a tour of the ship to. Let's not hold up. Let's not rush through this past thing. Let's talk about this Patty Duke and her grandmother. Let's talk about this. So essentially, the granddaughter wanted to go on a cruise to celebrate her grandmother's birthday. The grandmother agreed to go on the cruise so she could set up her granddaughter with a successful man. Right?
Yeah.
In a nutshell?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. As one does.
All right. As one does. One does. Julie, meanwhile, is giving. Do you think they had one room or two rooms?
One.
Like if it's for somebody's birthday, would you need to give them their own room?
I mean, they don't give complete strangers their own room.
I mean, remember the John Ritter episode?
We also haven't seen a lot of room situations in a while, except for, Marsha and Epstein. But like,
they describe Barry Keys' room as being the cheapest one on the boat.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a note about Barry Keys' room.
Yeah, I got a note about his room.
Yeah, we might have the same one.
So Julie, meanwhile, is giving a tour of the ship to family friend and washed-up comedian Barry Keys, who says the words, "The Love Boat, it's a big waterbed." Yes. Oh, as he's walking in. When they run into talent agent named Freddie Stevens, Barry self-importantly bellows at Freddie to not bother him with talk about getting signed because he's strictly here to enjoy his vacation. And Freddie gives him the "what the hell are you talking about" look and says he'd be more than happy to ignore his existence. Hateable.
Poor Freddie. Poor Freddie. He's on this boat for some R&R.
Poor Julie. She's just getting used.
Well, he did her father a big favor once.
They never actually get into what.
Yeah, what was the favor?
I thought she did say that like he gave her father like his big break, but they never really say what was her father.
Right. They never mention like, was he a comedian? Is he an actor? And maybe they're laying the breadcrumbs here. I assume it'll come up at some point. But
what did Barry Keys remove a body? Like what did Barry Keys do to give this guy, like what did he do that to owe?
Maybe he gave him that butter bit.
But like to owe a life debt. I really can't stand this guy, Barry Keys. I really, out of all the.
Well, luckily he's on like most of the episodes.
Yeah, it's so annoying. It's like normally I'll watch these episodes about three times. If I really like it, I'll watch it a fourth time. I had a hard time getting through the second watch just because of Barry Keys. And then I was trying to determine like
Keys podcast.
Well, I was like, what is it? There's something familiar here that's just grating my nerves, and that's when I looked up.
He's Tony Clifton.
Yeah. He's Tony freaking Clifton. So anyway, let's move on.
So real quick. Yeah. So Julie sends Barry off to, as Jimmy said, his garbage hotel room.
Right.
And there's like 1 million people in the elevator. And that is the nightmare scenario. Now that boat's not that tall, but it's like, this is why I would never get on an elevator with like a bunch of people at one time. It's not because I'm claustrophobic. It's because if it gets stuck, I don't want to talk to all these people. Can you imagine being stuck in an elevator with Barry Keys for 40 minutes?
Well, and we've seen
this elevator before. We've already seen it go down once. So
it smells like sausage to this day. Yeah,
that would
that's a nightmare.
40 minutes of Barry Keys off the cuff humor.
Just
elevators in my day, we only had a rope. Like that kind of stuff.
He has to make a comment for everything. Every exhale's a new stupid joke.
Mm-hmm.
Can't stand him. Grandma Warner motions Gopher over and tells him she'd like to arrange for her and her granddaughter to be seated at the singles table.
Aren't we just on the boat? And you're already booking dinner?
It is the Love Boat.
I know. It's all about the dinner table.
It's all about the dinner table. That's all that matters on this show. There's no wheel. Apparently, in order to steer the ship, you just sit down with a short jacket at a long table, and it steers itself. It's so annoying. It is annoying because the whole
You're obsessed with the
obsessed with
captain.
I just want to see a wheel just once. Just show me a glimpse of a bridge.
We'll get to it later, but Barry Keyes, your arch nemesis, actually calls Steubing on that.
I did. I did notice that.
So
I didn't want to.
Don't throw him out yet.
Yes. Elevator smells like sausage. All right. So Captain and Grandma Warner, they have this bizarre conversation about a Leonard Keller.
Now, I have a comment about Leonard Keller because it was bizarre. Do you think that is a reference to Helen Keller? Because it's Patty Duke.
That would be my assumption.
Okay. That's the only way that whole scene makes sense.
Did you? I don't know who Leonard Keller is. Is this a? Did we look?
I just think Keller. I just think the fact that it was Keller was just the hat tip.
It's as the kids call it, an Easter egg.
Yeah, a little something something for the nerds back in the late
nerds. They knew we were gonna
heads out there. Yeah,
they knew one day there was going to be a project, and that somebody was going to be looking.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a forefathers constant. Julie is at the bar. Isaac has a bottle of champagne. He says, "Don't worry, a friend owed it to me," but then says a friend owes him some caviar. I've never had anybody owe me caviar or food as like a. I've never had that.
That bar is empty.
That bar is always.
That bar.
You never see it.
This is why we always say, like, oh, they got to get Isaac some help. They don't need to get Isaac some help because you know what? Isaac had plenty of time to go gossip with the kids on this episode and give out free champagne. He's stealing money from that bar. They're not making back that champagne money. Not tonight.
And you got to think, like, either it's an all-inclusive or not. Regardless, the bar is going to be busy, right?
Yeah. I mean, every episode up until the last two, everyone on this boat is drunk as a skunk. And yet, when we go to the bar, this is 2 weeks in a row now, it's pretty much just staff.
Yeah, I thought it was weird.
So they're not even paying, and then they're stealing. They're taking money away.
Well, there is one scene where Barry Keyes is making everybody very upset, including these two women sitting next to him who get up and leave the bar because they can't take his humor. But there's no one at the bar, which seems like it's not accurate.
It's weird.
Do you think that Barry Keyes?
That's the only place that people are going to be gathering around in this boat is the bar.
I wonder. Maybe you're right, Jim. Maybe that's like deep subtext that actually that bar was popping like an hour ago, and then Keyes comes down.
And Keyes comes in riffing on how you count cows or whatever the hell he's talking about.
I bet he's proud of it. I bet he shows up, the bar empties out, and he's like, "You just got Keyes."
That's it. Yeah, you got Barry
here. Barry Keyes in the building. Get out of here.
Remember, I used to be really good at staring at somebody in a crowded bar so they'd leave. Like it's like
to get that spot. We just bring Barry Keyes with us if we want a good spot somewhere.
That's what you need.
Drop him off, and he can empty out that awesome side in the back on 44. And then we tell him to beat it, and we take the seats. Thanks, Barry. High fives. He gives you a secret handshake. All of us individual secret handshakes, and he's out of there
with butter.
Yeah, with butter. Ship sets sail. Julie delivers a bottle of champagne to Barry in his tiny cabin, and fibs compliments of the captain. Barry happily reminisces about how her father used to bring her backstage before her performances, and Julie credits Barry for being the reason her father remained in showbiz. A lot of unanswered questions here.
Two things.
I don't get,
Two things. First of all, he offers and then essentially grabs two glasses, is going to pour Julie a drink. Again, this boat just took off.
Oh, yeah.
Julie's drinking on the job again. We saw this last week too, which is fine, but it's like,
she should be busier than this.
Yeah.
I would think. Yeah.
Two, that's Isaac's room from last week.
What?
They're definitely going to be reusing sets
because later on, when he's working out, it's that stupid thing that you called on the wall.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that. Oh, it's Isaac's room. I even have a note in here like, how are you working out with the two handles and some springs? I forgot.
The crap room that
We
they
brought this
stick
up on an earlier episode.
Yes.
Remember, we said that crappy thing on the.
Mhm.
They didn't even try.
It is Isaac's room. They just were like, "Sir, you're a terrible comedian. Stay in this heartbroken bartender's room this week."
I wonder if
We're
that
not
room
getting anything over on YouTube. That's for sure.
I wonder maybe it was Isaac's room, but him and Roxy Blue just wrecked that room so much. They were like, "You don't have to stay in here anymore." He was too heartbroken. He had to move rooms. That could be a
Isaac
thing right
just
there.
gets assigned a new room every trip.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, every trip.
Can you imagine like your next week's guest, and it's like, oh, who used to stay here? Oh, the bartender who got dumped because he was too clingy to a rock star, and Barry goddamn Keys.
Barry Keys, the guy who's appearing all over the place now.
And everyone's there like, look, you have to stay in this room. There's only one rule. And they're like, what's that? What? Keep the door locked? Like, no. You see those two handles and those springs? You need to work your shoulders while you're staying here.
Second rule, you have to be the most pathetic person on this boat.
Yeah. Yeah. God only knows what level this room was on. Like, I don't know how that works, but I'd imagine this is back in the corner on the side, away from everything.
Boiler. Yeah.
I'm surrounded by cardboard boxes. So just an awful spot. There's no window. Interesting.
None of the rooms seem to have windows, which is just weird.
Like
no, it's always just not even a porthole.
Yeah.
But I wonder I don't know how that worked. I would think that
I would imagine it was just too expensive to try.
I mean, I've been on fishing boats that at least had a window in the middle. It's like
a window.
Yeah.
Barry mentioned Barry says she's probably itching, she being Julie, itching to ask him to perform his comedy shtick for the other passengers, even though he's here to relax. But then relents and says he's willing to throw her a bone by agreeing to a 15-minute guest spot. Sorry.
He's not going to do his whole act, though. You get 15 minutes and that's it.
Just a tight 15.
He hasn't even been on this ship, right? A few hours. He's already gotten this Bobo bottle of champagne that no one got for him. He got a pity bottle of champagne. He could have gotten pity caviar, but Julie didn't want to wait. That's on Julie. But the other thing is just, this guy just stinks.
He's already chased out the bar crowd.
Done. Chased out the bar crowd. Isaac thinks this guy's hateable, and I don't think they've had a face-to-face meeting. Just awful. He's the human equivalent of Pigpen on Peanuts. Just everyone runs the other way because they don't want to be covered in this guy's dust. I just can't stand this guy. I just think he's a horrible character.
I feel like we haven't even gotten to the bad stuff about him yet.
No, this is enough.
Like, this is enough. When he gets later on, when he's doing his act, or he's not even doing his act, he's like sitting down somewhere and he's telling jokes really loud and everybody. But the face that Steuben is making, like, is just like he hates this guy so much.
Yeah.
And doesn't know how he got on the ship.
Well, he only hates him for one reason. Don't mess with the captain's dinner. Charo did. He wasn't happy when she, did her thing up there. Not thrilled. I mean, in the end, it worked out. Thank goodness. He don't mess with his short jacket. Don't mess with his dinner because he's going to have dinner with everyone. And as we learned last week, dinner can go on to like 3:00 in the morning.
Well, let's be honest. We're 0 for captain's dinners. We have not had a successful captain's dinner yet.
Nope. Shenanigans.
The most successful captain's dinner, you could argue, was the one where he pulled his ex-wife out by the arm to yell at her.
He told her to go to your room
in front of her husband. So
we haven't seen that captain in 5 episodes.
No, that guy died that day.
Something. They overhauled the character. Julie says it's not necessary, but Barry replies that he doesn't want to disappoint the captain, who clearly wants him to perform, as is evidenced by the complimentary bottle of champagne. Look at that.
Hoist on your own free champagne, Julie.
You just got buried on that one. That one just came back and screwed you, Julie. Jeez, you should have. Thank God you didn't wait for the caviar. In retrospect, if you thought that,
I'd have been showing up at Steuben's room at that point.
Like, I'll do a 30-minute. But the thing is, though, this guy's a piece
clearly this captain's flirting with me. So
yeah, Barry Keys has been here before.
Give me the old Barry Keys magic.
This guy set out to use Julie to somehow get some exposure to this agent, and he's such a piece of garbage, like from the very beginning.
Here's the thing. Spoiler. It all worked.
Oh, okay. All right.
He's a terrible character, but this plan comes together very well for him.
Yeah. But why would you? This is the Love Boat, right?
He's the smartest man in Hollywood.
Makes no sense. There's no love. There's no anything here.
Well, I was thinking about that, like the fact that there are like these different storylines. Like his storyline has nothing to do with romance, nothing to do with going on the boat to try to find love. It's just like, I need a gig. And
is it the
woman who I've known since she was little? She works on the boat. I'll go do it. You know?
Right,
is this
not about
my last shot? So I'm going on a boat. Me and this kid are going to go find love on this boat. The kid's, you know, this is the only chance he's going to get to ever see a woman, and this is my last chance to make it in Hollywood.
Have we had a storyline with no romance angle of any kind?
It always had something to do roundabout
somewhere. Yeah, like even the olds were interfering with
that's
love.
That's what didn't make any sense. It's not the betrayal.
He's being a little creepy with Julie, though. So maybe, maybe in his mind, he had more than just a gig.
Well, you got to question this guy's scruples as a whole. I mean, the guy's just a piece of garbage.
Well, we'll get to what he does later, which is amazing.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, we need to move on, or we're never going to get to this.
All right. So Danny approaches a woman shooting photos and tries to flirt with her by standing in front of her camera. Yeah. She responds by snarking that he's blocking her light and to get the hell out of her frame.
Go back to Cleveland.
Here's the thing. It's not that hard to like flirt with ladies, right? You walk up and you blah, 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 blah. You know, you say something and blah, blah. And you just move on and blah, blah, blah. Sure, it's easy. Right?
Yeah. You can say these things.
I wrote one of my notes that I wrote down and underlined and put exclamation points next to was that Danny has absolutely no game.
Nope.
And I'm not saying this is like some Casanova, but I mean, come on, bro.
Yeah.
Like he has no ability to talk to anybody.
See, I don't even see an issue with it. Like I just she's not one for you.
That's the issue that you don't see.
He does a very good job of making it believable. Like it's easy to see how this guy has never been with a woman.
Yes. But here's the thing too. He's very smart. He's well educated, as we see later. He's well read and things like that. Like, you know, he's a worldly fellow, but that doesn't help, man. When this lady's just trying to take pictures on the boat, just get a couple of those boozes that old grandmother put in the soup, and bring them over and get to it. This boat is filled with alcohol. Like, get going.
I mean, he is. There's more coming, but like, he did a good job. The actor did a good job of playing somebody who has absolutely no idea how to talk to women.
Yes, bad storyline, horrible friends, but excellent portrayal of a guy who sucks at talking to women. So
immediately you get the impression, you're like, okay, I see how this has not happened for him.
Yes.
This is what I'm going to say, right? This is the second storyline that I can't stand, right? In the same episode. And I'll tell you why. As a guy that has no game and doesn't know how to talk to ladies, this is not an accurate portrayal of that role. Okay. This is an incredibly specific episode and an incredibly specific, like, I don't know if you call it a set of skills or a way of being, but what I'm telling you right there is that guy doesn't have that problem. These are two storylines within one episode that are just straight garbage. Okay. Just horrible.
So wait,
can't stand it.
Too good
looking. Come on. It's not believable. It's not believable.
Because he's talking to the women.
No, it's not. It's more than that. It's a few things, right? Maybe you make him a little overweight. Maybe you have a guest star a little overweight. You know, you give somebody a reason to be self-conscious, like that kind of thing. This guy, an amazing head of hair, questionable ethnicity, on a cruise, a couple of open buttons. Come on,
he does have.
This is all. I call shenanigans 100% on this. It is not boo.
I mean, I defer to you on awkward, flirty experiences. So
thank you.
I will take your note.
I have a unique point of reference. That's all. Moving on. Shirley is reading by the pool, and I just want to say this: I wrote a note. Who reads a book by laying on your stomach on the side of the pool without a swimsuit on when there's deck chairs everywhere. Who's doing that?
And then,
So weird.
Well, go ahead, Mike. Because I think you're going to make the point that I'm about to make.
So not only does she do all that weird stuff, then poor Dave King, old tab hunter himself, pops out of the water, and not like he wasn't doing a swan dive cannonball, and I guess gets a little water on her. And
No. No. We got to stop there.
Okay.
I have a note here. This is the most unhinged way for anyone to get out of a pool. I don't know if you remember this scene specifically, but she's laying next to the pool, as you said, fully dressed, reading a book.
Weird.
And he like pops out from behind. He like somehow like puts his hands up and pops out backwards and like lands on her. No one
like
gets
they
out
do.
of a pool.
Justified. Okay.
Like
so
those NFL players do when they jumping out of a pool in those videos, like that kind of thing. Who's
So
like,
it's like somehow
I'm
the
Dave.
writers were like, we have to have these two bump into each other. Somebody's like, well, what if they just see each other and recognize each other on the deck? And another guy goes, no, we need him to bump. They need to bump into each other. All right. She's laying by the pool, fully dressed. He back flips out and lands on her. This is how they meet.
Do you think that's, and we wouldn't know this, do you think maybe that's Tab Hunter's move from like
maybe
the 50s
I
movies?
wouldn't be surprised if there's a movie somewhere where Tab Hunter hops out of the pool.
Right. Like that was like a real applause moment for people who knew.
Or maybe
This
that's
makes more sense, Jim, now that you gave context to how weird that jump was, because I had a note that I was like, man, Patty Duke yelled like she got shot when he
jumps
jumped
out of the
water
pool and lands on her. Like,
yeah, that makes a little more sense. I think I missed the collision. So
I think too. I think maybe it's just a strategy, right? Like, let's just
again,
say
it worked.
Like, let's say he holds his breath.
Listen, I'll talk about Danny's game. I'm not going to talk about Tab's game here. Like Tab's got it going on.
I'm just paying so much attention to this storyline because it's the only thing keeping me interested in this episode, because the other two are straight garbage.
I will tell you this before we get too far. I said this to Michelle right before we came up to record. I said, I know that Mike is going to hate the Ruth Gordon storyline. So I was completely off.
Yeah. I love the Ruth Gordon.
Yeah,
it's funny. It's light. I feel like it belongs on the show. Where are we? Okay. Grandma strolls over to see what's up. That's what I put in the notes. Shirley introduces Dave and reminds her that they briefly dated in high school. Grandma initially looks encouraged by the presence until she learns he's an elementary school teacher.
Yes.
She pulls Shirley aside, complains that teachers make shit money, and urges her to show some cleavage.
Yes.
Wow.
She also says that he's probably a stowaway.
That was great.
Because there's no way an elementary school teacher could afford to take this fancy cruise, you know?
Yeah. So there you go. There's your price point again.
There we go. But
then she does still encourage her to show some cleavage, which is
well, she doesn't physically encourage her. She like pulls her shirt down. So
well, also too, I mean, anyone can go on the ship. I think, John Ritter proof, as long as you have a viable alter ego that you can dress and, get
John
changed
Ritter
into.
bought a ticket, though.
Yeah.
John Ritter bought a ticket. Did JJ Walker buy a ticket?
JJ Walker technically did not stow away because he drove next to the boat.
So,
Fair enough. Fair enough. So 2 out of the 6 episodes we've actually had stowaways. JJ
I disagree. JJ was not a stowaway.
JJ was not a stowaway.
I get the impression that before the boat leaves, it is kind of like being in the pre-TSA area of an airport. And so, therefore, he's allowed to hang around. He never stowed away. He should have stowed away instead of driving down the Gulf of
You're
Mexico.
allowed to come on board and talk to people. And then you've got to go join the thousands of people on the dock who are saying goodbye to these people for the 10-day cruise that they're taking.
Like you're going to space.
They do have quite a large group of people saying goodbye to them every week, even though these people are not going on the Titanic, across the ocean. It's just who's showing up to say goodbye to their friends going on a cruise.
And that's definitely a thing now. Like we had that insert shot again. Like that is just something we're getting every week.
I think that's probably in every single episode. There's a shot of them pulling away.
They're more and more ludicrous because it clearly is just shot like in a photo booth somewhere at like Great Adventure. Like it's just like
Danny's fraternity pals razz him about finding a woman, and at this point they give out some info. He is 19 and a half years old. And they bring up what he said, quote unquote, by the time I get to Acapulco. Again, this guy's too good looking to have this problem. He's got too much hair in his head. He's shown too much chest. He's in good shape. He's good. Nah.
He's got loser friends, though. I mean, that's...
Yeah, you got to get like an average looking person to make it believable. I could keep every segment. I could keep talking about how much I hate this, but I don't want to do that. It's not. Okay, let's move on to dinner. Okay, let's move on to happier places here.
To another guy you hate.
At dinner, here's Barry loudly cracking jokes while the crew and Captain Steubing look on in dismay. Jimmy, you're absolutely right. The look on Captain Steubing's face.
He is disgusted by this guy.
Well, and the other thing I noticed is a point that you brought up, Mike. There was a shot of Julie with Doc at dinner. And we often say, like, what do they do work-wise? But it just seems like they're never off duty. I mean, last week it was 3:00 in the morning and they're still in, short jackets and dinner stuff. Like, I wonder how that works. Like, they can't, that's the only place they can eat.
Well, I was going to say, do you think they have to go, or do you think they choose to go, or do you think there ain't no place else to go?
I think there ain't no place else to go.
That sucks. That sucks because it's like
you can't get away.
We've all been in client relations at some form or fashion, and it's just like, can you imagine having to go eat with all these people that you've been talking to all day? Like, it's just like, no, thank you. Like,
yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm with you. It's just awkward. I just thought that was kind of an interesting.
There should be like that room they were in last week when they were, diagnosing the attempted murder. That should be their cafeteria, like
clubhouse,
employee cafeteria, like that kind of.
Just make
I
it.
gotta say, I did not watch last week's episode, so you guys are talking past me with that.
Well, they had this.
Watched I think the first 3 episodes, but.
We always see the same sets, and I think last week it was just it was like a room off of the dining room, where they were sort of like, and you can tell they made it look like it was quote unquote after hours, like that sort of thing,
right?
But it wasn't like in a giant ballroom with 300 other guests.
Yeah, like
anybody butter their hand in that episode.
Yeah, can we get to the hand buttering?
As a matter of fact, I'm sorry, what am I doing?
Well, Steubing is disgusted by this guy before he butters his hand.
Before the butter,
once he butters his hand, which is apparently his big gag, thing, it's like the captain is ready to basically throw this guy.
Well, it's not just that he butters his hand. Okay, like I had to watch this a couple times. I didn't want to, but I watched the details of his little. So as he is buttering his hand instead of a slice of bread, right? He doesn't realize it. But then he begins to cackle at the hilarity of not wanting to eat his buttered hand. It was a very complex, little thing that was going. It wasn't just it was, but the hilarity of me not.
Layered.
Oh my
nuanced.
Goodness. My note. The only note here is I say awful. I don't know what else to say.
Well, my notes as far as the Barry thing is concerned and his comedy. And we'll get to, obviously the big scenes later on. But if you're going to have a show and you're going to write a character that's comedian, you should hire a comedian to write some stuff. And I don't think they did. I think just standard Frankie, who writes on the Love Boat, was allowed to write this guy's big gags. And that's why you get the joke about the cows and buttering your hand. This is clearly written by somebody who has no idea what comedy is.
But wasn't he supposed to be bad?
He's supposed to be bad, but it should be believably bad.
That's what I'm saying.
That's fair.
It's Kaufman-esque in the sense that with the Tony Clifton character.
1977, Richard Pryor's big at this point. You've got
Carl also had those.
But
you had
this
those
guy,
people too that were like viewed it as art. It wasn't just like trying to get a laugh, like so bad.
Well, that comes back to what happens at the end, because there is that interesting thing when he does do his act where he switches to something else, and I have notes on that. But it's just
malarkey.
The idea that like this guy was a popular comic for years is not believable at all. Give him a couple of Bob Hope jokes, something.
Yeah.
Not the counting cows thing and whatever the buttering the hand thing is.
Or maybe
the amazing thing is, and Jimmy, you're right, because like in the act itself, it happens too. But it's like they never gave him one good joke. Like you couldn't give him like one good joke, and then it just gets progressively.
Or give him the one in the beginning. Give him a Don't even give him a good one. Give him a decent. Get a couple chuckles.
His funniest lines in the show are when he gets on and says, "Oh, the Love Boat, it's like a giant waterbed." And then when he sees the captain and goes, "Hey, who's minding the shop?" Like those are the funniest things he says during the entire cruise.
Yeah, his skewing takedown of Stubing's lack of steering is really that's why I can't believe you hate Barry Keys. He's been saying things. Barry Keys, probably a huge listener of this show.
There's zero doubt.
On
him and Tony Clifton both. Danny stumbles upon a woman who's laying face down, and as she sunbathes.
This is hard.
It's terrible.
Barry Keys wrote this bit.
Yeah, Barry Keys. It's got Keys fingerprints all over this. He used the Keys method. Gushes about how attractive she is, propositions her, but the ship's horn is drowning out what he's saying. He shuffles off dejectedly as the horn stops, and he screams at her, "Come down to my cabin later."
Yeah.
Awesome.
Question mark. Again, it's just not.
That was just for comedy. That was a bit.
Yeah, they're trying to write this as though he's pathetic.
Yeah.
And they're doing a good job, and he's doing a good job of playing pathetic.
Yeah.
Because if you've never been with a woman and you're talking to a woman who's doing the thing where she's sunbathing with like the back of her top untied, so she's face down, and just go up and have a conversation like a human being, like he goes up, he's like, "Hey, you want to go back to my room later on?" And she's just like, "See you around." And everybody around him is laughing because apparently the whole boat knows this guy's on the boat to try to get laid for the first time ever.
Terrible.
It's a shame.
You gotta get off that boat.
This is the thing. They made me feel bad for Danny, which is how I know that he's the only one who brought his acting game to this episode.
Fair. Very fair.
I generally wanted him to win. Although we'll get to this, I was very angry with what they did with Marsha.
They sullied the image of Marsha Brady.
God.
Julie finds Barry at the bar, cackling to Isaac about his comedic geniuses.
Yeah. This is when he chases away the women at the bar.
And even Isaac, my note is, he did have a neckerchief. That was a big look back
That was a
then.
thing back then, though.
Yeah.
Thurston Howell III wore the neckerchief, did he not?
Still a bad look though.
It's bad luck. Yeah, I don't know if he's the guy we want to.
What about the blonde guy from Scooby Doo? He had a neckerchief, didn't he?
Fred.
It's a good group.
Yeah, Fred. What kind of? Yeah, what's your name?
Guys.
My name's Fred. What's your last name? I have a van, and my name is Fred. That's all you need to know about me. And I have dog can talk.
Speaking of creeps, did you see who got a funny haha by Stubing?
Oh, I read notes on this.
Yeah.
Woody Allen is funny haha.
Oh,
Buttering your hand is not funny haha.
Right. Oddly enough, buttering your hand is less peculiar in 2023 than Woody Allen is.
Apparently.
I'm one of those people that never liked Woody Allen. So when Woody Allen was exposed as a creepy weirdo, I was like, yeah, cool. I've been right all along.
Well, this is where you and Stubing part ways.
Well, and the captain sort of, she tasked Julie, you need to decide whether you want to function like a professional cruise director or be a bit cowardly or too cowardly to level with Barry about his horrible performance.
He referred to her as an officer of entertainment, which is
that's a great title.
Stretching the lines of credulity in military boat parlance, I guess.
No, I knew guys in the Army that were OOE. Yeah, absolutely. It was a whole division. You go to training. They have like seminars on like the streamers.
Yeah. It wasn't you though, right?
No, it wasn't.
No,
It was a guy I knew from Canada. I can't remember his name. Danny approaches a woman named Barbara. Here we go. Marsha. On the deck and asks her if she lives around here. She looks implausibly charmed by his inept flirting, which is, again, not believable, before he suddenly decides that the effort is a no-go and shuffles off dejectedly. Couple notes here, right? First thing that jumped out at me, number one, how do you make Marsha not Marsha? You kind of mess her hair a little bit. She had a bit of a different hairstyle than a Marsha. Like, she didn't talk like Marsha, and it seemed a very anti-Marsha character. You know what I mean?
It's very what Mr. Brady was. They clearly, and this is what I bring it up all the time. This is what I think Love Boat is. Like, people playing against type and doing it well. I think that's what Epstein does too. You know, it's like
maybe that's why I don't buy it. Maybe it's a bridge too far.
That's fine, but I mean, I think that's why the show exists in a way. I think some of the best performances have been the people who are completely against type, because they really probably are invested in it, because you don't want to be pigeonholed. You know, you don't want to be rerun your whole life. You know, it's like, so.
Or maybe there's a number of people that are, this is just a promotional vehicle where they're like, just whatever.
Sure.
You know?
The other thing I thought was interesting was, do you think that there is another show going on where Marsha's friends are trying to get her laid? We never meet them, but like, she's got 3 friends, 3 sorority sisters, and they brought her on this cruise for the exact same reason.
Well, can you imagine? I mean, it's weird because it's like funny, haha. Like, okay, this premise of like of the virginity, right? You have this guy who, so Porky's. Let's take the movie Porky's, right, and switch it around to it's all girls trying to get their girl. Like, it becomes this weird
lady Porky's.
Like, it becomes this weird criminal movie.
Little thing happening here that I was going to talk about later, but there's 2 storylines here about women who meet guys on this cruise, like the guys immediately, and have to be the ones to say, like, no, this is the guy. This is the one I want. And the storyline that's playing out with Danny is like, Danny clearly has no game, as evidenced by his meeting Barbara, saying hello to her. She has, as you put it, some weird, charming reaction to him where she immediately turns around, smiles, like, oh, hi. And like right there, you're like, you're in, dude. You're good. She clearly likes you. Just don't screw it up. And then he says, do you live around here? And then he says goodbye and walks away. And she's like
tired or something, right?
Yeah, like, it seemed like all you had to do with Barbara at this point was say hello. And she was like, you'll do.
Here's the thing, though. But okay. And this, I got to backtrack on what I said before. This is a bit realistic only because this, right? If you are inept, and I know someone that is, Tyke Mailer, if you're inept in this sort of communication, right? It's a real thing. Tyke Mailer distinctly remembers incidents where being out in a social situation, single, where you're having a conversation with like a girl or whatever, and then later that night your friend's like, oh, she was totally hitting on you.
Yeah.
So the story is basically if you're inept in that way, then you're also oblivious in that way.
Right.
So he
also
just
might be
he
also might be shell shocked. It's been a bad stretch for Dan.
Well, you get that later. You get that later when they talk on the lounge chairs where
that guy is wrecked.
Comes up to him and starts talking, and he's just like, I'm so tired, I gotta go back to my room. And it's just like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Marsha Brady's throwing herself at you.
Yeah.
And you're, first of all, the only person on this boat who's wearing a sweatsuit. Get your shorts on, show some skin, and close the deal, Epstein. What are you doing?
Scott Baio he wore a sweatsuit.
12-year-old
Scott Baio's character. I did watch that episode. That was insane. But he was a kid.
Right. He was a child.
He had more game than
He's supposed to be a 19-year-old at college.
And no, Scott Baio did not have any game in that episode either.
Mm-mm.
The lesson here is that most guys have no game.
Well, there's a fun little thing here where it's 1977. We're talking about women's progressive views. It's like the women are the ones who are taking charge in this episode.
In the whole show so far, this has been a very female forward.
They're going on this ship looking for a guy, looking for some fun, and they're running into these absolute losers who they have to try to like work there. They got to manage these guys to the finish line.
This is a red herring. This whole thing is a red herring. I just figured it out. Juan Epstein, it's a Robert Reed situation. It's a Jim Nabors situation. He doesn't want, it's the 70s. He's still a virgin. He's terrible at talking to women. Maybe he's just, this is all for appearance sake. It would be consistent because the end of the thing, nothing happened.
Yes, it did. He was lying.
Yeah, he lied at the end.
He lied.
Nothing happened. I guarantee you nothing happened. When that camera was in, he was making out with Marsha.
Marsha Brady was not letting anyone.
She was not getting off that boat without getting laid.
Yeah. After they were kissing and stuff, like they didn't see it because the camera went somewhere else. He was like patooey, patooey, patooey.
Hey,
I'm
Mike,
telling you.
Mike, you know when you were like the guys who are bad at flirting also are bad at picking it up. They're also bad at realizing when people are lying about not having sex with the other person.
Fair enough. I guess those go hand in hand.
That whole thing, which we'll get to at the end, that was weird. That was weirdly written. But like, yeah, that was a lie.
Uh-oh. All right, here comes Adam Bricker, our friend. Doc is giving Grandma some pills. My note is
streak continues.
Surprise, surprise. You know it's official because they came out of his cabinet, his office cabinet.
Yeah.
Oh, does he give her pills? Yeah, he gives everybody
for insomnia.
Insomnia. So,
the doctor, I can't sleep. I worry so much about.
She then notices Doc isn't wearing a wedding ring and asks him if he'd be up to meeting a young, gorgeous, sexy woman.
I just met one.
I put this note in, and I have no idea.
Doc is so smooth.
Doc is ready to throw down at any point, no matter what.
Yep. Why did I put a note here? It says in parentheses, new car with a tape deck.
Yeah, that might have been one of the things. She's selling.
Yeah, she was selling the granddaughter that she had a new car with a tape deck.
Oh, that's what I couldn't remember where that came from.
Yeah.
She talks up Shirley. He mumbles about his complete lack of interest in doing that. Grandma asks him to come by where? The Acapulco Lounge at 7 p.m. tonight. Moving on here, we're going. Barry's rehearsing in the lounge when Julie enters the room. This is where
this is bad. This is bad.
Ooh, just what a J. So as she summons the courage to break the news that he can't be in the show, Barry scrunches his face in false pain and says he needs to sit down. So obviously she's in the spot. She can't say it. And he's saying how desperately he needs to hear the sound of applause in order for him to feel good.
Cardiological issues.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with your ears, dude. If your chest hurts. I'm no doctor. I mean, I've heard.
Barry is such a good faker of this heart attack that he fooled the musical director because they played like the real slow piano, sad song stuff.
What, were they going to play him out in case he was dying? Like,
I'm just saying, like he tricked them. It wasn't like,
But again, but the show must go on. Like this guy's just a scumbag, just a user.
Yeah, this is low on multiple levels.
Beyond.
I also have a soft spot for Julie because she's adorable. What are you doing?
I don't.
She's about to tell him, look, we already booked the acts in advance, and he's like, and now she's like, well, I gotta let you go on now because you're clearly about to die. So
I don't think I picked up that he was faking it. It's like it made sense to me in the storyline that
there's a scene later where you find out,
right? Yeah, I don't think I thought the thing with the immediately
coils. Yeah, because that's how you get ready for a show.
That's right. Well,
I get a really cute cabin. You drink some champagne, some caviar, and you pull out the old stretch muscle.
He's also like berating the lighting guy on this ship, like just absolutely
that you never see, right?
And it's like, dude, you're in a boat ballroom. Like, how much lighting do you really need for, I don't know, 15 minutes, right?
I think that's what he said he's going to do is 15. You're not getting his whole act. He was very adamant about that.
A tight 15. All right. Well, Mike so annoyed by the storyline that he had to bail. So luckily, I'm taking over Barry Key style. All right. So after the fake heart attack, we go to exercise, which would help you prevent a fake heart attack. Doc's out there on the deck, and he is kind of doing an exercise group, which is 100% there just to set up Epstein's final fail. So he ends up talking to a married woman who points out her gigantic husband.
Who's lifting weights. That guy over there is my husband.
So that didn't work out well for Epstein. So he finishes 0 for 3 on hitting on people that we see.
That we see.
Right. There's a list later that is not as much. After he fails, and this is the one you're talking about, Jim. So Marsha comes back and really just making it an absolute layup for him. And he's an idiot. So he's just a complete idiot. And like you said, he's dressed like he's an Ishtar.
He's wearing a tracksuit on the deck while doing jumping jacks. He's sweating profusely. So now he has to go lay down. He's got a towel wrapped around him. She comes up to him and is basically like, "Hey, what's up? How's it going?" And he's like, "I'm just miserable." And they talk briefly. She says that she's mad. She's like majoring in communications. He says, "Oh, me too." And she's like, "Well, then we should be able to communicate." And he goes, "I gotta go."
But it's like, my God, like there's only so many college subjects. Like you have the same subject. That's great. I can talk to you about, Marconi inventing the radio or whatever I learned in Comms 101, So
this is the thing where I got upset at the treatment of my beloved Marsha Brady here is that Isaac comes over and talks to her after Epstein walks away. And he's like, "Hey, you're really into this guy, right?" And she's like, "Yeah, he's cute." And then she seems to talk about him like she knows everything about him.
Yeah.
He's under pressure from his friends because obviously it's the talk of the boat. So she knows he's a virgin. She knows he's there to get laid.
Bit of a stalker, perhaps.
She also knows that he's apparently smart and sweet and all this other stuff, which he's had 3 seconds of conversation with her and sounds like an idiot.
That Isaac scene and everything between him and Marsha was the most unrealistic thing we've seen in this show so far. Not this episode, all of them that we've seen.
Amen.
Isaac, in theory, is an employee on this boat and is working. There's no way these guys are at the bar where maybe those friends are at the bar and they're filling Isaac.
Maybe.
I don't know. But he pops out of there so fast. Like he's been hiding behind a table. And he knows everything.
The exact line to her that Epstein just did, where he says like, "Oh, I gotta go," or "We'll talk later," or something. I forget what he says. Yeah. But then like she's talking to Isaac and he says like, "I gotta go," or "We'll talk later." And then she kind of sits back and does like, "That's what they all say." And it's like,
right.
How are you portraying Marie McCormick, Marsha Brady? I'm sorry. Maybe it's just me. I had a little bit of a crush on Marsha Brady when I was a kid. This was 1977. I would have been 4. So now 3. So obviously, I'm like scoping out women at that age. And Marsha would have been one of them that I had a crush on. And portraying her as somebody who can't get anything going on a cruise, I'm just angry about that.
Yeah, that actually might be more to your point, Mike, about Robert Hedges not being homely enough for that role. It's probably more about Marie McCormick is probably far too attractive.
They're making it seem like Marie McCormick is just some chick on this boat that no one would have any interest in.
They could have at least like can't hardly waited her and put glasses on or something like that.
See, that's the thing. They would have, if this was in the 80s, they would have had glasses. She would have had like a pigtail, maybe been wearing like a baggy outfit.
Yeah, but then somebody's like, "No,
just like her laying on the deck, just like, hey, I'm going to come to talk to you for the second time, even though you're a total dork and a weirdo. What's up?" And he's just like, "I got to go." And then Isaac bails on her too, which just, I know that.
And I think Isaac's got to go back to work, which is fine.
That makes sense.
My theory is,
I don't like these dismissive.
The bar is so empty because Barry Keyes cleared it out. We figured it out. He's watching this episode of The Love Boat on the bar television. So that's how he knows what's going on. So he was able to come out and, give him the whole, we're basically halfway through. He was able to give everybody the update. So
he's one of us too.
Right. Mike, we thought you bailed because you hated Barry Keyes so much.
No, just,
probable
technical issues when you're on a
You want me to get us to the
ship.
commercial, Mike, and then you can pick up? Is that?
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
caught
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Well, as
All
soon as the ads are going to come rolling in. So we'll.
So, Ruth
This is
Gordon.
Shirley, right? Yeah.
This is when Ruth Gordon and Patty Duke are on the deck, and she's kind of letting Patty Duke know about the plan to meet with Doc, and she's Patty Duke's really into Tab Hunter, and so they're all like, I don't want to do this, but Ruth Gordon tries to throw herself overboard, which is some of the great physical comedy of all time.
Well, and the quote right before she went to jump overboard was, "Can Nice buy you a condominium?"
Yes.
And she was going to be out. Those were final words by Grandma.
Well, like the whole storyline with her, I guess that there's maybe something to this in the world, but it's very strange for me to think of like a woman who's like in her 80s or 90s who's like, my granddaughter's not married, and it feels like I've failed because I have not found her a man. Yeah. So I'm going to throw myself off of this boat.
Right.
Because if I can't do this, then like, what's the point of even going on?
Meanwhile, her daughter has found a man.
I don't.
Yeah, her daughter's doing fine.
Yeah.
But I also think this isn't about her granddaughter finding love. If we go back to the main point about the money, right? All Grandma wants is to live out the rest of her days in the house of a doctor, right? She doesn't want to be in the guest room of
in-law suite.
Yes, that's what she's doing.
I never really put that together. Maybe there is something to where like, do we ever find, I don't think it's said. Is there some sort of implication here that like she's living with her grandmother?
Not necessarily. They never mentioned what happened to her mom.
Okay.
I just took when she said, "I invited you on this trip." Like I felt like, I don't know. My gut says no.
Maybe she was going to push her over because she's such a
I feel like this is a trope that does show up in some of these old shows where it's like some older person who's like, we got to get her married or else like she's going to end up an old maid or whatever. But like it's 1977 again, getting back to like there's a feminist progressive thing in some of these things where like the women are the ones going after the guys because the guys are complete idiots. The women are the ones who are like, hey, I'm on this boat. I'm going to have a good time. And you have this throwback to this old lady who's like, if you don't find a husband, I don't know how you're going to even survive. You'll just end up in the street. Like you'll be a seamstress somewhere or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like,
meanwhile,
it's
again,
1977. She's probably going to be fine. Whether she's
she paid for 2 tickets on this cruise.
Exactly.
Well, this is the third episode in a row where we've broached the subject of somebody going overboard.
That's true.
I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, we're getting a little jumpy on this boat. I'll get us to the commercial break here. So last scene is
10
Isaac
days
and
with Paul Keys.
Barry Isaac and Julie. Yeah, Mike, don't drop off. It's Barry Keys heavy. So Isaac and Julie are walking to the room. Isaac's got like a whole thing of tea that he's carrying. Julie offers to go in. Isaac gets a couple really good singers on the way out.
Bless you.
Thank you.
I wrote a note here.
He says disaster movies are in when they were trying to talk about his act. And then he basically says he's going to get the whole audience so drunk.
Well, this is the note that
maybe that's what happened.
Isaac has essentially hit on the key to stand-up comedy, which is that you get the audience loaded and then they laugh at everything.
Yep.
This explains how every terrible stand-up comedian in the 70s and 80s wound up with like an ABC sitcom because everybody in the 70s and 80s was doing coke, going to comedy shows, laughing hysterically at whoever was up there, and then those people became stars. If you ever go and watch some of these like stand-up guys from the 70s and 80s, like some of them obviously hold up. They're very funny. Some of them, not so much. It's just it's a lot of Barry Keys. And the only explanation for how the whole audience is falling over laughter is that they're loaded.
Yeah. And even then, they must have drank a lot in like the 2 minutes he was bombing because they didn't laugh at all in the beginning.
No.
Like I said, this is Isaac's room from last year. So the armbands that we saw on the wall last time. But it's funny. Barry, I guess not expecting a visitor or not expecting it to be Julie is just in full workout.
No, yeah,
he comes in.
Well, my note is here is what muscle groups do you work with 2 handles and a bunch of springs?
The
not the heart. Not the heart.
Not the heart. That's right.
long story short, we've kind of hinted around this. Julie figures out that he has been faking, kind of says, all right, this is the favor. We're even now. But he's still going to do it. Like, he doesn't really have any remorse for what he did.
Just a totally sleazy move.
Well, and Julie says too, like after he does tonight's show, the direct quote is, "The slate is clean."
Yeah, we're done.
Like,
basically, you're dead to me.
Like, that's not a
when
happy,
you dragged my father
done.
out of that pit in Guadalcanal. Thank you, but now we're even.
And
like, I wish you would say like, hope it was worth it, or like something a little had a little more fangs to it.
But they go to commercial right on
really
there.
Are having a heart attack.
Yeah, that's the button though. Like, they go to commercial with Julie kind of getting dicked over by Barry Keys.
Well, and also she's sort of taken the bull by the horns too, so it kind of made me feel better, because it was like, well, how much of this stuff are they going to allow the character to take before the character's like, all right.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want Julie to be a complete pushover, but up until this point, I was like, come on, Julie.
You fake a heart attack, you are now.
Oh,
yeah.
Here we go. There's a fake heart attack.
We're supposed to really like Julie.
Yeah, but it's
that's very obvious. That Julie is supposed to be. She's the what is her actual title? She's the cruise ship coordinator,
cruise entertainment, or something like that.
Well,
we're all supposed to like her. Like, I think that one dude, what's his name, Gopher?
Yeah,
he has.
I don't know what Gopher
maybe
does.
2 or 3 lines in the entire episode.
Yeah, Gopher's not in.
He's not really in this at all.
Well, here's the interesting thing about this issue, right? So during that fake heart attack, it just dawned on me: where's Doc? Was Doc only here to give you pills if you can't sleep?
Oh, that's
Doc
right.
got his own agenda.
Where's Doc?
They didn't take Doc to.
They didn't take him to his exam room. Nothing. Doc wasn't even involved.
Just go back to your room, and we'll bring you some tea.
Yeah, go back to your room and work out with handles and stretchy sprints.
It does seem the worse the medical issue, the worse the care is. Like, Bruce Bixby, a couple weeks ago, sprains his knee, and Doc's on it. He's got a wheelchair for him, all this stuff. Jack Tripper, like a month ago, fell off the side of the boat, and they gave him hot chocolate. So it's inconsistent.
Terribly inconsistent medicine on this ship. Interesting.
That is the end of Act 2. So do you want to pick up on Act 3?
Sure. So Doc complains to Isaac that he really doesn't want to be set up with Grandma Warner's granddaughter, just as Grandma enters the lounge to drag him over towards where Shirley and Dave are sitting. And I wanted to make this comment. There's a lot of Doc in this episode.
Yeah.
Like, even when there shouldn't be Doc, there's Doc. And when there should be Doc, there isn't Doc. But there's still a lot of Doc.
A lot of Doc after the first half of no Doc in the episode. He comes in kind of midway.
He does. So Shirley gives Dave a heads up that she agreed to have a quick drink with Doc. Listen, you're playing with Doc, you're playing with fire.
You're not having
we know that. You're not having a quick.
After Doc is being pitched to by Grandmom.
This is after, correct. This is their meeting.
We're meeting in the Shirley can cook and sew like a bandit.
Yeah, we're in the Acapulco lounge at 7 p.m. right now. Doc is meeting
so can
Shirley.
You not get medical treatment after 7 p.m.?
No. Or if you get a heart attack. Or if you have
SOL at that point.
Fake heart attacks are after 7. You're on your own. Jump off the ship. Doc ambles over again. Don't play with Doc because you're playing with fire. Looks genuinely smitten with Shirley. Uh-oh.
Oh, he's very into Shirley.
Yeah, all we needed was like a va 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 voo.
That's it. Or just like coyote eyes, like something.
Yeah. Or,
he grabs her hand and ignores Dave, who Grandma quickly ushers to the dance floor. Doc swarmily coos, "Where have you been all my life?" with his best Dean Martin voice. Shirley grimaces and then glances helplessly over at Dave.
Yeah, Doc kind of like creeps up on her.
He's always a creep.
Yeah.
But it's not his type. Awesome. It's not his type.
I know.
We know it's not his type. So I don't know what he's doing.
Doc likes him big. I know.
He likes him big.
Yeah.
Danny's combing through the female names on the passenger list.
Okay.
Which again, please.
So where did he get the easel? And where did he get the ship manifest? Why is that something that you can grab as a passenger?
Zero security.
Again, you have to suspend disbelief for these things, but even this one was like, How does he have the name of everybody on the ship? What's going on here?
And
well, the other thing is
so
Julie's
bad
not
at
even
hitting on these people. There's no way that even if you did have the manifest and you did hit on all these people, you do not know the names of all these people. Like they never gave a name to the person who was the photographer or the workout person or anything.
Here's the thing, though, but it doesn't matter the names. He's just looking for a female name. And the thing that gets me even more than that is the fact that Julie walks over and she's got no problem with it.
Yeah, it's
like
her
this
list.
guy's just trolling
it's more
for
than likely
female
her
names.
list. Yeah,
because it's probably on a room. It's probably like Mrs.
It was
Mr.
a
and
different
Mrs.
time,
like Miss.
Mike. It was a different time. How do you get to know people on a ship? You steal the manifest.
This
Do
is
you
a
frown upon it, sure, but
breach. This is like a data breach. This is terrible.
Oh,
These guys.
This is some really terrible stuff.
Look, Danny and his friends should have gone on the sex boat, which I don't think matters because I do think Danny's playing the role of Paul Lind, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well,
you're wrong. You're just wrong. He had sex with Marsha at the end of the episode.
Yes, he totally does. Not because he has any game, but because Marsha's like, I'm not getting off this boat without getting lit.
That was not even an
0%.
ambiguous. Save it. We'll get to it. But you're wrong. You're just wrong.
Right. Lack of awareness equals lack of awareness. I'm just saying. I don't. Julie's saying that sex is only a small part of the relationship. Julie's trying to do the right thing.
Gopher gets a spit take, basically.
Yeah,
Gopher has one scene where he doesn't even speak.
Yeah.
Doc happily tells Doc happily tells Grandma that everything she said about Shirley has turned out to be true, and a few seconds later, the two run into Shirley and Dave. Dave is abruptly summoned to the purser's desk. Of course, I wrote "scumbag move, Doc," and Grandma cackles with delight.
Great move, Doc. This is you are
scumbag move.
You are
Doc.
Playing in the majors, Tab Hunter.
Well,
I'm rooting for
Grandma first.
I'm on team Shirley and Dave. It just feels right.
That's fine, but I like that it's a nice juxtaposition between how bad Danny is at everything with women, and Doc is just like, oh, I'm going to use all the tools I have available to me on this boat.
Yeah, why didn't Danny just go talk to Doc? Doc would have made it happen in 10 minutes.
That's who Danny should have been.
Clearly, Danny didn't need any pills. So.
You know? That evening, that's a good one. That evening, Danny is brooding on the deck when Barbara comes over, and she says she'd like to get to know him. My palms started sweating right here, like, oh boy.
Oh my God.
When he visibly perks up, she suggests they take a walk around the ship and end up at his cabin. I wrote, slow down, Marsha. You're making me nervous here.
There's no time. This is the last night.
She's got no time left. She's got no time left.
And apparently there's like a whole party going on, and he's out
there is
on
a
the
scene
deck
where one of his friends says, like, you're missing the great party inside or something.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. There's something here. Sorry, Mike, maybe you're about to quote it. Are you about to give the great quote from when they're talking at the railing?
Go for it.
Maybe. They reach his cabin. He invites him to sit on the bed, and he nervously puts on.
Before they get to the cabin, when she first walks up to him, Danny's line, and I wrote this down. Are you here to gawk at the eternal virgin in his natural habitat? This guy's got no idea what he's doing. This woman, first of all, she looks very good in this flowing frock that she's got on. And this is the third time now that she's smiled and approached him like, hey, what's up, guy? And he's just like, I don't know. But now she finally does say, why don't we just go to your cabin? To which he kind of does this, but I don't know which way to go. They turn the wrong way. Then they get back to the cabin. But as I was saying before, Danny having absolutely no game is only saved by the fact that Barbara's not getting off this boat until, and I think she even says that when she's talking to Danny. It's like, I just think before this thing is over, we should get to know each other. She's saying everything other than we should go take our clothes off.
Yeah. See, I didn't read that at all. I read it
I'm starting to believe the idea that you identify with the awkwardness here.
I'm starting to think this is autobiographical.
I feel like I could have played this part of Danny better than Danny.
I feel you have played the part of Danny at this point. Did you write this episode?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Who knew? It was like a prophecy, you know?
Listen, I've been an awkward guy at times, but whenever a woman comes up to you and is like, "Let's go to your cabin," there's one and only one answer to that question.
Yeah. But in my mind, I'm like, no. There's so many.
She wants to go talk. She wants to go talk to me about books or something.
And he basically, at one point, when they get back to the room, I thought they were going to go really far down the line with this, but he basically is like, "Who sent you? Why are you here?"
Oh, that was a great thing. Yeah, I don't know if Mike's going to get into this yet.
I almost thought they were going to do the kind of really tacky plot where it's like, "Did my friends put you up to this?" Like that kind of thing.
Oh, and she's a concubine. Like, it can get crazy.
I thought they might be going there with the idea that his friends had somehow like got her to go do this.
That might have been, even for 1977, that might have been a little too far.
Yeah, because I mean, like, they sit down on the bed. Like, she sits down on the bed right away, like, I know what I'm here for.
Yeah.
He is like trying to put on Led Zeppelin because he thinks that's romantic.
Yep.
Then he
starts. It depends what song.
He has a poem or something that he wants to read.
Yeah, Wadsworth, but he got the guy.
And then she's like, "Come here, stop being an idiot," and like kisses him. And then he stops her and is like, "What are you doing here?" And she actually gets, to her credit, to Maureen McCormick's credit, she does a good job of in this scene acting completely incredulous at this point. It's like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
What am I doing here? I've been trying for the past 10 days to get into your pants, and you're just like, what? What's happening?
Yep. Let me just say that from an awkward person, right? I do have an example that I think will convey real world awkwardness in this, right? Real quick.
I feel the need to point out that you are married with children. So
married with children now. Yeah, this was, 8th grade. Name was Lauren Ansley, right? 8th grade.
Lauren, I hope you're watching and listening and enjoying the show.
Yeah,
drop your comments in the section.
Yeah, hit smash that like button.
Be sure to like and subscribe.
And nobody was home at my house, so she had taken the school bus home with me. So we get to my house. There's nobody home. And we're kind of just standing there awkwardly. She had no idea how inept I was. I didn't even know until this moment. I said, she goes, "Hey, well, I guess it's just you and I here, huh?" And I went, and I said,
"Want to play checkers?"
I said, "You're right. Let's go sit out front." So we sat out front on my front porch. You must feel
dangerous.
Well, there you go.
And the next day at school, she broke up with me. She called me a prude. I wasn't a prude. I was just non-aware. I don't even know.
Big fan of the front porch.
8th grade. Who doesn't love a front porch? Let me just say, in my defense, I love porching.
Would you consider a front porch almost to be like, I don't know, the deck of a boat when a party is going on inside?
Promenade?
It's all the same. It's all the same. See all the parallels?
All you need is a big wig and some white pants, and you, my friend, are Danny.
That's it. I'm
not sure if she's from around here.
Just terrible. Showtime.
Showtime. Yeah.
Showtime. Julie introduces Barry as the cruise's special performer, then shoots him the stink eye, a well-deserved stink eye, when he gives her a thank you peck on the cheek. She shouldn't have let him do that. Anyway, in the 90s, that scene's not happening. His opening jokes fell so flat that he asked the audience if they speak English. That made me giggle.
The microphone is on. Like, this is my point. He doesn't have one good joke.
No.
Even a little bit. It is like bomb, bomb, bomb.
Nothing but bombs. Bomb, bomb, bomb to bomb. Just bomb after consistent bombs.
You are bombing on a boat where people cannot leave the boat. And most of the people on the boat are very old, to the point where they might have been your contemporaries when you were a famous comedian. This is how bad you're doing, Barry.
Well, you'd think you'd be able to get over just on
and use whatever used to work. He even says that at one point, like, these are old jokes. These are old jokes. It's like they were bad back then, Barry.
You got to figure it, but also
radio drum. Jack Benny was funny. Like, it's like.
Well, I think
there have been funny people in the world before this.
Yes.
I think part of the issue here is that he was so obnoxious leading up to this. Like, if they had kept him hidden, right? No one had seen him, big surprise or whatever. And then he'd come out. I think he would have gotten some like sympathy laughs / applause.
He would have got a little bit of a bump.
It would have been something just because, walking in, but he blew
He's
that.
terrorized.
He spent the last few days scaring people away from the bar. So now they're all
that is true. It's terrible word of mouth.
like, oh, it's this guy.
It's terrible.
Stubing's sitting
It's
there just
terrible.
like, they're letting this guy ruin my dinner again.
Well, everyone can hear him with that voice. Like everyone, you just keep it down for. Julie's so dismayed that she flees to the deck. Gopher follows her to see what's going on. She tells him she regrets letting her personal feelings about Barry get in her way of her job as a cruise director. Gopher agrees it was a huge mistake to put him in the show, but she says she'll probably be laughing about it in 5 years. No, Gopher. Julie returns to the lounge and is pleasantly surprised to see that the audience is warmed up to his shtick. All right, this is what I've been waiting to say right here. Number one, when the hell did he develop this new act? Number two, he's all spoken word, like, and everything was back in my day. Everything was back. It was not funny. It was the same thing said at a different cadence.
There was a couple decent ones. I thought the bit about going back to the street corner and telling your boys what happened and you lied. That was
mean, I'm 50-50 with both of you. I don't think that his new act was funny. But I do kind of agree with Mike Robertson that, the thing about like, back in my day, you had to go back to after you took a girl out, you had to go back and you had to talk to your boys on the corner and they'd want to know what happened, blah, blah, blah. Kind of getting back and hinting at the storyline going on with Epstein and Marsha here. But like, I do like this inside comedy, and maybe I'm a comedy nerd thing, but like this idea that like the joke teller from the 30s has to kind of reinvent himself and do observational comedy in order to relate to a younger audience. I like that idea, but again, going back to get some writers that can write some funny bits, because they
oversold it. They oversold like like the crappiness of his act. I think it was too much.
If they include the new act, if the new act includes one or two like really good singers, which they could have, there's somebody that could have written a couple jokes for this episode, like it would have landed more for me. I do like that he gets a stool and then he switches to this observational comedy thing where he's like, kids in my days, blah, 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 and these kids today, they don't have any spine and blah, 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 blah.
When he grabs the stool, he says, "Let's rap," which is great.
This is a time when comedy was doing that.
Yeah,
this wasn't comedy. This is a ripoff, is what it is. This is a ripoff of the movie Rockstar with Mark Wahlberg. I don't know if you remember. Yes, Mark Wahlberg, right? He went on to take it was like a Judas Priest thing, Ripper Owens. He took the spot of Rob Halford, right? And at the end of the movie, he's realized his mistakes, and now he's in Seattle, man. And he's doing an acoustic guitar in a coffee shop. It's the same thing.
So
Barry Katz is Mark. Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying.
I don't know what
I agree with what you're saying in that what they could have probably done to earn it a little more was he could have been doing all his nonsense in the beginning of the episode, but then he makes an offhanded comment to Isaac about the generation gap or something like that. And Isaac's like, "Oh, that's pretty funny, man."
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Like, just show that he's been tooling around with these ideas a little bit. It really does go.
Or he could be like, "Let me bounce something off of you,"
right?
Like in like a sincere, so you can kind of see the behind the, like what's about to happen.
Or even if you really want to get into it, Julie could have been the impetus, and then it could have been, "Now I owe you a favor." Like,
if they had done something along the lines of like he suddenly drops the jokes and starts doing a Rodney Dangerfield kind of like, "Boy, I tell you, people used to laugh at my stuff, but they don't anymore. Here's what I got going on now," and then rips into something that's like funny for 30 seconds. It's better. But there's just, they don't have the budget on this show or whatever to go hire the comedy writers that they need to sell. Now, it's hard to make stand-up comedy work on a show like this, but as we've talked about several times now, like nothing he does lands. And even when he uses his new persona, it doesn't land that much.
One thing he lands. That man looks excellent in a tuxedo.
He looks like
he can wear a tuxedo.
He looks like he should be good at this.
Exactly. He has the presence of an excellent stand-up comedian.
If this guy gets up to do a toast at your wedding, you know you're getting something.
Oh my God, absolutely. That guy would be an excellent maitre d' at a South Philly restaurant in 1977.
He's going to be making the girl laugh. He's going to be making you laugh.
You're never getting your food. It's going to take for. We've been there at the diner before. When we got these
complaining about the wrong thing.
You can't get any unopened packs of butter.
It's terrible. All
butter in his hand,
ma'am. All the butters. So Freddie Stevens, remember him, races over to Barry and tells him that he'd love to book him for some small comedy clubs, but Barry dismissively says later. I call nonsense.
Hey, Freddie.
Now he's cool.
Freddie, you got time. Nobody has seen this act.
Yeah,
and you're on a boat. You don't have to rush over there all desperate.
Just stand by the exit. You'll see him. It's not a big deal, Freddie. Good Lord. He pulls Julie aside to beg her for forgiveness. But the only reason he's asking for forgiveness, like, what if he had just fallen on his face the whole act?
Right.
Well, then
the forgiveness was because his plan worked.
Yeah, because Freddie approached him.
His plan worked.
Yeah, his plan worked. We've talked about this. Like, this plan, as sleazy as it was, it worked.
Oh, it worked. Well, so now Julie's like, she beams and assures him he hasn't lost her respect. How, Julie, your bar is low. I'm just saying, your bar is low.
Listen, she's never going to see this old man again. But her dad
is so sweet, and we are supposed to think of her as so sweet that she's just like, okay.
Early in the show, very early. We'll see what happens.
I mean, maybe later if something turns, but right now
nothing turns. Julie is perfect for 9 seasons, and then she leaves the show, and I leave the show
on her own. Right. Then we bring in Stubing's daughter. I don't know if we can.
Whatever. You find a replacement for it. Season 10. Jimmy, you can come back and host season 10. I'm out once Julie goes.
Julie's out. I'm out. That's it.
There you go. Good luck, Mike. Good luck.
You know what? It's over. Once Julie's out, this project is completed.
I don't like hearing that. I don't like hearing that. 215 episodes and then stop.
Just stop. Nope.
No, we're done. We're not going to even cover the end.
It's a curveball right there. So Shirley stops by Doc's cabin. Here we go. I always get nervous when there's a woman is going to his cabin.
Unescorted.
To tell him she's in love with Dave King. And she's afraid
before she can do that, he grabs her and pulls her into the room. Finally, you see things my way.
Doc mulls that over for a few seconds and proposes she come by his office with Grandma tomorrow afternoon. And in the meantime, he'll figure out a way to convince the old lady that he's really not that great of a catch. Ooh,
Doc went to that. Doc went to that pretty fast, which makes me think he's done this once or twice.
He's left many people at like restaurants. He's done all sorts. I'll be right back. This date's not going well. I left my heart medication in my car. Like he doesn't. Doc, you must have forgot. This is Doc.
3 o'clock is prime doctoring hours. You should have had.
What do we know about? We know that Doc was in the Army because he says in this episode that when he was in the Army and they were doing calisthenics. This is what my old Army instructor used to tell me. We know that he's been divorced, 3 times or something?
4 times. 4 times.
Married 4 times and divorced 4 times, right?
Yeah.
Yes, 0 for 4.
And his name is Adam Bricker.
He's a doctor on a cruise ship. Yeah, Doc is living the life in 1977.
So I had a question that you two may or may not know the answer to. So when Patty Duke's leaving and Doc's like, I'm a bad loser, which is great. This was great. I'm a bad loser. Don't come to me for your Wasserman.
Yeah, I didn't know what that meant.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Is that like a wedding thing?
I don't know.
It's got to be a reference to something in 77 that we don't know.
Yeah. Well, good luck. Good luck with your Wasserman.
I'll find out and I'll comment on it in the stream.
Excellent.
So the following afternoon, Shirley brings Grandma to Doc's office, and the two find him faux boozing while staggering around and slurring his words. It was his Dean Martin impression.
It was good.
Bravo.
What are all you doing in my room?
As he grabs at Shirley and pretends to paw at her, an appalled Grandma calls him a degenerate. If Grandma only knew what Doc was, he would have already been called a degenerate.
Yeah, this was barely acting for Doc.
Yeah, it's okay to give me shady drugs, but don't try to touch my granddaughter who I wanted to. Yeah.
Mike, is this the first purse whipping we've had?
Purse whipping, correct. Sir.
Not
It was a
not
good
going to
one.
be the
It was a good
last.
one.
No. Smacks him with her purse. Shirley laughingly admits to Grandma that Doc was merely putting on an act because she's in love with Dave, but didn't have the guts to point that out since she's a grown woman and it's none of her damn business who she hooks up with. Oh, that's just my note. Grandma suddenly decides she's okay with the granddaughter's choice and suggests they go find Dave to share the good news. What a weird wrap up. Just to say
quick.
it
was quick.
Like, what? Where's Tab? I mean, maybe he was getting paid by the minute because he wasn't on that much.
Tab was
Yeah,
on
he's
that
not
one.
in it that much.
Tab didn't get to the dock, the inner sets. He was just no interiors for Tab Hunter. So.
None.
The funny thing is, Tab never has to sell himself at all in this episode.
No,
it's just like he meets her. He weirdly jumps out of the pool like a psychopath
lunges
and lands on her, and immediately they hit it off. Like they've known each other.
They dated apparently in high school. Yeah, so
it was okay. It was implied. They mentioned that they'd known each other. I don't know if it was.
I think they mentioned they went together.
Yeah, they did. It was in high school.
So.
Yeah. Danny and Barbara, back to them, are holding hands and kissing goodbye. And a few seconds after she ambles off, Danny's frat brothers rush over and cackle about the towel that Danny had hung over the doorknob last night and leap to the assumption that he got lucky. Danny smiles dreamily into space, but says it was all a ruse because he didn't actually have sex. I don't know. And then there's a note here about a weird guy sitting behind him. Like somebody sat down behind him. It was weird in this little cabin. I don't know what. Oh, sits behind me in chemistry class. Okay. That's where it got. I'm like, what sits behind me? That was like absolute rhubarb. It was that same kind of thing. I was missing a couple letters. Thoughts on this?
So I guess they want you to think he's A, being a gentleman.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
And then B, this is probably deeper than they intended to go, but we talked about it. Those friends care way too much about his business. And I think he doesn't want to give them the satisfaction of knowing the truth. So maybe he's holding it over.
Or it was special. One of those kind of things, right?
It's interesting because, again, it's another version of you either meet a stranger on these boats and you marry them, or you meet a stranger on this boat and you don't even exchange phone numbers or addresses. Like there's no indication these two are ever going to talk again.
Right.
Which is, I don't know. I know you can't give a cell phone number, but give me an address. What college do you go to? Give me something. Give me something to hold on to as a viewer that these two are getting together.
They had phones in the 70s.
Yeah.
Just give me a phone number.
Yeah. It's like
because he sees her and she waves at him. And then they go, "Who's that?" And he's like, "I don't even know that girl."
Yeah.
And then like 10 minutes later, she's getting off the boat and she yells, "Danny!" And he looks over and waves. And it's just like, are you never going to see this woman again?
Right.
Like now, to her credit, she went on that boat looking to score. She scored.
Yeah.
And now kind of like a guy going on a trip to Vegas and coming home. It's like, I have no intention of seeing this woman ever again in my life. She has no intention of ever seeing Danny again in her life, but she had a good time last night.
But that's an episode for Lust Boat. That's not love. That's Lust
right.
Boat. So
I mean, it is exciting. It is exciting and new, but that is not love.
No, that's not.
That is not.
That's not Tab Hunter, Patty Duke love.
No.
Well, those people are the real thing, obviously.
Yes.
Barry signing autographs when Freddie Stevens invite him to call in the morning to discuss reigniting his comedy career. And after that, Julie escorts Barry to the ship's exit before giving him a warm goodbye hug. Good riddance, Barry. I'm so done with that.
Julie stands right in the doorway,
just blocking everyone. Like you work, you work here. What are you doing?
Yeah, my prediction is that Barry Key's career is not going to take off after this.
I don't think Freddie Stevens is who I want as my representation.
That guy doesn't seem to really be on the cutting edge of anything.
Carson's not taking that call.
No.
You're on Tom Snyder if you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
My thought is Barry tripped on the way out on that dock, that one, set that they have, bumps his head, forgets who he is. And he lives the rest of his life.
What probably happened? He probably went to grab the railing on the way down, and it's all slippery because of the butter.
That's it. And now he ended up in an assisted living facility. Grandma, and he can't tell, he's in a vegetative state too, so we can't even tell bad jokes. Is that a happy ending?
No.
Depends on your thoughts on Barry Keys.
Wow. I think it's
we know you were
clear.
I think we know where one person
I'm gonna have a t-shirt made. It's gonna say Barry Keys is the worst.
The worst Love Boat guest ever.
Never explain it. Barry Keys sucks.
Well, I bet you there's a market for 45-year-old t-shirts, 45-year-old slogans.
Check our website for our t-shirts.
Yeah, email me quickly. Redbubble, all that good stuff. We'll get you something. Grandma gushes at Dave about how thrilled she is. So weird how it changed because he didn't try to accost her. About him possibly becoming her grandson-in-law, then gives Doc a goodbye kiss and offers to introduce him to her niece. Notice Doc perks up at the mention of Meatloaf, and he would chase her out.
Yeah, not the fact that she was Miss Illinois.
Well, he likes him big, remember? He likes him big. Meatloaf, that's like, Meatloaf. Yeah, sure. That's it. Just as Shirley barks at her grandmother to stop her matchmaking and disembark with her and Dave. End of episode.
Listen, I'm not going to say this is the worst of anything or the best of anything. Like, as far as Love Boat episodes are concerned, I think I've watched 4. The thing with Barry doesn't land for me. The Barry Keys thing just doesn't work for me. The thing with Epstein and Marsha is funny enough in that, like, he's such an inept guy. The thing with the grandma and Patty Duke just seems like a very strange story of this grandmother trying to marry off her granddaughter when, like, clearly she meets this guy he's a teacher. He's a good guy. And the grandmother's like, no, he doesn't make enough money. It was weird. It was a weird episode. But
yeah, I do not think this was the winner, especially compared to last week, which was I know you don't. I liked it more the first time than I did the second time. I don't necessarily agree with Mike, you're anti the second storyline thing. And I actually thought, as lame as Barry Keys was, I thought it was well executed. I thought everything was well executed.
I don't argue with that at all.
But I do not think this was the best episode, despite, like I said, I tend to gravitate towards people going against type, and we had a few of those. This had some issues, and I think the more you kind of get into it, the more you realize it was not definitely the layered, complicated episode that we had last week.
I just think coming off that episode last week, you know what it was? It boils down to fun, watchability, and fun. This episode was not fun, and it wasn't very watchable. So it's 0 for 2 for me. Is it the worst? I would say it's the worst.
No,
it's definitely not.
No,
it's not taking the place of last week. Absolutely not.
No, and I think the other thing that's interesting is if you compare it to last week, you had a annoying character, over the top annoying, really, with a twist at the end, let's say. But it was so much better last week, even though Gomer Pyle never actually acted any different throughout the whole episode. They did a lot of work with him off screen, basically, to make that storyline pay off. Whereas here, Barry Keys, kind of a bad guy, kind of a user, got what he wanted at the end. And that's not, like, that doesn't make you feel good about.
No, it's not fun.
Guy.
It's not fun. It I like my Love Boat episodes with some whimsy, with some comedy, and at least one storyline that I can leave feeling good about. So,
yeah, it wasn't a very
King of the Hill.
Yeah, definitely not. There wasn't like a wacky lightness to it in a way either. Not that we need everybody falling into the pool every week, but
so we agree this is not
the
best
definitely not. Okay, episode 5 will carry on at least one more week. So, captain of the ship, who had the best performance, storyline, acting, whatever. Jimmy, you're the guest. Who would you think is the captain of the week?
I mean, in terms of acting, I think that, I mean, I wish I knew how to say his name right, but I'm just going to call him Epstein. I think he nailed this awkward guy who's on a ship, who's just lonely and pathetic and has no idea how to talk to women. I think he did that well. I mean, I think that whatever you think of the episode, and this wasn't a great episode or whatever, but like the guest stars did what they were brought on to do. I think this is more a problem of the writing. So I'll just say that. Like, but I thought that Epstein's portrayal, I keep calling him Epstein. Sorry. I know he's dead now, but like, apologies, Epstein. But he nailed this. He was good. He was very believable as the awkward guy who had no idea how to talk to women. I
have the exact same thoughts and the exact same winner, Epstein as well. I thought absolutely everything you said, aces across the board. Mike, who you got?
I'm going to go with Doc on this one. And that's just a couple things. Number one, just because of volume. And it's about time a cast member gets this much sort of screen time within an episode.
You got a lot of shots up. Yeah.
Got a lot of shots up. Mm-hmm. Well, because we haven't seen it this much. Since that first episode, it's been maybe a little bit of Julie. It was just refreshing to
Julie,
see.
I mean, Julie is the star of this show.
Oh, well, they give her the end. You gave her the end. And so I would go. This episode for me would be Doc. Now, could we say Julie almost for every episode? We probably.
I almost think we have to take Julie out of the mix for a little bit.
Like Julie's the heart of the show, right?
Yeah. I mean, I bet you Julie's been by far on the most, like in the most stories, had the most lines. Like she's definitely like Steubing again this week. Steubing kind of showed up in the first half and disappeared. He didn't even come back after the whole.
He just comes on, makes a very disgusted look at Barry Key's comedy, and
out here.
Puts one of his many short jackets on and goes to dinner.
This was a little harder for me. I'm guessing it wasn't for Mike, but Jimmy, walk the plank. What was the worst thing about this week?
Now, I liked her. I liked all of the guest stars. I liked her. But the grandmother's weird obsession with getting her granddaughter married off was just strange to me. Like, maybe it's a generational thing. I don't understand why you'd be so desperate, whatever. Like, Patty Duke's fine. You don't need to worry about her. Yep. But the whole portrayal of, like, I got to get her a man. You're a doctor. You should meet her. She knows how to sew. She knows how to cook. She's got an 8-track. Like, it was just bizarre. It was like.
These are big things.
Cassette player.
It's very much like, you know, again, going back to this idea that, like, the women are the ones taking control of things in this episode. You know, this grandma kind of signifies to me, and Ruth Gordon's great. She's great. But, like, she signifies to me this sort of, like, you know, she's the female Barry Keys in this one, where it's like, she's just out of touch. She just doesn't, she's just, I like her. I didn't like this character.
Yeah.
Leave your granddaughter alone.
Mike, I mean, I think I know where you're going, but
no, maybe not. Maybe not. I would go for me. It would be Frat Guy 2. I think with the blonde hair.
Okay, yeah. Like, I mean, those guys are very disliked.
Yeah, I have I have Dave's friends too.
I have those, all
the
three of them,
and the old one. The third guy.
He wanted to make that bridge.
Yeah, they didn't go full, like,
you know what?
Leave him alone, guys. But it was like
guilty by association.
I thought he was going to tell the friend at the end after the other two idiots left.
Yeah, and they didn't.
Yeah,
they really did not write that ending well. They didn't seem to know how to. They wanted it to be like he's a gentleman, so he's not going to talk. He's not going to tell these guys anything. But they also just. You know, it's like he's standing there and he's staring off into space, and it's like he hasn't learned anything. You know, she was obviously the quarterback of the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, you had sex. That's great, but you're still kind of clueless.
I just think it's really hard to come off as better than somebody, even if they're a virgin, which you look down upon, when you agreed to come on a cruise with a bunch of old ladies and Barry Keys.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. Be careful what you ask for.
And that's totals and a recap for this week.
There we go. Listen, reach out to us. Our email address is theloveboatproject@gmail.com. You can find us at The Love Boat Project on YouTube, at The Love Boat Project on Twitter, and you'll find us at The Love Boat Project on Facebook as well. Again, special thanks to our guest this week, Jim. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well,
and
thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure and an honor, and I look forward to coming back and discussing more of these terrible people, other than Julie, who's obviously a peach.
Excellent. My only hope is that Barry is never to be seen or heard from again.
R.I.P. Barry Keys.
Barry got involved with some shady investors and was never heard.
Fun times. We will see you again next time for episode 7. Mike, thank you again, as always, and we will see you next episode.
Boat. I have a boat.